Hello, Professor and fellow classmates. My name is Jerry Schramm, and my presentation is on the Freedom Village Wellness Nurse. Freedom Village is a continuing care retirement community, CCRC, in Coatesville, Pennsylvania, which is just 30 minutes outside of Philadelphia. It's operated by the for-profit Brookdale Senior Living Solutions. It's a multi-layer community offering independent, assisted, skilled nursing, rehabilitation, and memory care services. According to the website Glassdoor, its employees and former employees rate the Brookdale facilities as a good place to work, very positive, management supports, and engaging with the residents are all positive qualities, but low wages and a high workload are some of the negatives offered. The Freedom Village has a number of amenities, most of which I was able to capture from their website, and a few others the wellness nurse, Jackie Pitcher, was able to offer. So they're pet-friendly, library, arts and crafts studio, indoor pool, putting green, grocery store, cafe bistro, barbershop, beauty salon, wellness center, and even a bank. There are a number of amenities, and most of which enable the residents to stay on the campus for most of their needs. So the individual I chose to interview is named Jackie Pitcher. She's the wellness nurse for the independent care community at Freedom Village. Jackie entered the healthcare field as an EMT on an ambulance at the same organization to which I currently work, Lancaster EMS. She was interested in the long-term outcomes of her patients, although she provided acute care and delivered them to the hospital for their medical issue. She wanted to know what the outcome was, what happened after she dropped them off. That interest drove her into nursing. When she graduated, she worked in skilled nursing and home health care before she entered the Freedom Village community. She was quickly promoted to the position of wellness nurse, to which she still holds that position, and she's currently working on credentialing to allow her to move upwards into a director position. Jackie has quite a variety of responsibilities, most of which she was able to list for me. But she offered that there are other things that she does that are not necessarily listed in her job requirements. So some of the responsibilities she has is oversight of the health of 364 residents in the independent community, the staff the health and wellness department. She's responsible for attending to acute medical needs of those in the independent community. She's a resource for residents and family questions, tracks their hospitalizations. Every resident that goes to the hospital, Jackie's responsible for making sure she understands why they went to the hospital, when, and making sure there's transportation to get them back. She schedules doctor's appointments, collaborates with doctors and other health professionals. She also delivers the weekly education on the in-house television channel for the independent community at Freedom Village. And she's also responsible for the oversight and the hiring of the concierge nurses in the independent community. I asked her what some of the challenges of working with seniors might be, and she felt that memory issues were some of the largest challenges. And she said the need to exercise additional oversight, to explain multiple things multiple times, and it can be frustrating when the resident doesn't follow direction. She offered the resident on Coumadin who cuts their leg. Jackie's able to control the bleeding, wraps it with the dressing, advises the resident not to manipulate the dressing. The resident walks out of her office and begins to pull at the dressing. Jackie has to then refix the bandaging and re-advise them not to touch. So a number of those in an independent living aren't necessarily at the point where they can't care for themselves, but they do have some early onset dementia and Alzheimer's. End-of-life decisions are also emotionally taxing, according to Jackie. A number of the residents, they understand the end of life, but families are sometimes unaccepting and have a number of questions, and it becomes difficult to sit both the resident and the family members down and review those decisions. Jackie has a lot of admiration for older adults in the community. She admits their life stories are more than interesting. She finds herself sitting for hours on end and listening to some of the stories that are being told, things that she read about in textbooks through school. She's able to speak with some of the residents who actually lived through those events and offer those perspectives that you otherwise wouldn't gain. She feels that these is time well spent. The generation differences. So the residents, Jackie felt, have an exceptional work ethic, and they look you in the eye and shake hands when they greet you. They don't take anything for granted, and they believe in working for what you have and taking care of your family. Very different from the generation Jackie feels she's in, and that's one where most of her colleagues and individuals her own age, there's a sense of entitlement. Parents have provided for a number of those things, and they haven't had to work for them like their counterparts, those residents living in the community. The workforce, they feel they deserve respect rather than earn it, and they take education for granted. I asked what the strength of Freedom Village was, some of their strengths. Jackie said that they're the largest CCRC in the area. They're multi-layered, which offers them an advantage to some of the other freestanding facilities. The memory care is the greatest draw, a number of new residents coming in and knowing that it's multi-layered and they're able to transition between the different care needs. With that memory care, there's a lot of invested by Brookdale and Freedom Village into making sure their memory care is premier. And there's numerous amenities, some of which I've already listed, and they're active in the community, Chamber of Commerce, active with law enforcement and other community groups, and they allow prospective residents to try out the facility, to stay the weekend, take advantage of the amenities, interact with some of the other residents, and determine if it's the right fit for you. Jackie didn't have exact figures, but she was able to approximate that there's 700 residents in the entire Freedom Village community, 367 of which are in the independent living. The average age is 84, and most stay in the community for 10 to 15 years, although Jackie said some of the residents have been there since the Freedom Village opened. When asked about the regulations and challenges, she felt not being licensed to provide health care in the independent living was one of the greatest challenges. She has a wealth of experience with her training and some of the acute care experience she had as an EMT. She has the ability of providing care for individuals in the independent community, but because of the nature of it, they're meant to provide that care themselves, with Jackie just being able to provide acute care and not necessarily long-term. One example she used was the individual who has a cut on their right arm, but they're right-handed. Jackie's able to bandage and clean it initially, but ongoing care is responsibility of the resident. Well, without the dexterity with your left hand to take care of your right arm, that can certainly be a challenge. So Jackie has conflicts between the ethics and what she's allowed to do, and she did admit that sometimes ethics wins over. Some of the additional insight from one of our discussion boards, we had spoke about couples and how multi-layered and even freestanding facilities, the challenge of splitting up couples can be difficult. So Jackie says it happens very often, but there are some things that they've built in place to be able to address. There's a chaplain that hosts support groups to be able to find ways of coping with separation after being with one another for such a long time. And a companion is able to bring a spouse from one area of the facility to another to allow spouses to still have time together. And it's usually the result of a fall where one spouse has enter into the rehab area, or a deteriorating memory condition is probably the most frequent. In conclusion, those in long-term health care are passionate, they care, they see their role more as a job. Jackie feels she found a career that she loves, and she cares for each of her residents. She has a number of responsibilities, but as the old saying goes, if you love your job, you will never work a day in your life, and Jackie feels she meets that mantra. That is Jackie Pitcher on the right at a community event that she had with law enforcement. They collected all outdated medications from the residents, and they were able to pass them along to law enforcement for disposal. This is a list of some of the resources that I utilized in my presentation. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed.